In a time of great danger, when the Pharaoh of Egypt feared the growing numbers of the Israelites, a baby boy was born. His mother, desperate to save him, placed him in a basket and set him afloat on the Nile River. This child would grow up to become one of the most important figures in history, Moses. The basket drifted down the river, coming to rest among the reeds. It was here that the daughter of Pharaoh found the baby. Moved with compassion, she decided to raise him as her own, naming him Moses, which means drawn out of the water. Moses grew up surrounded by wealth and power in Pharaoh's palace. He was trained in the ways of the Egyptians, learning everything from languages to combat. But deep down, Moses knew he was different, and his heart was with the people he had been born into, the Israelites. One day, while witnessing the suffering of his people, Moses' anger boiled over. He could not stand by as an Egyptian beat one of his fellow Israelites. In a moment of fury, Moses struck the Egyptian, killing him. Fearful of the consequences, he fled Egypt and began a new life in the land of Midian. While tending to his sheep in the wilderness, Moses encountered something extraordinary, a bush that burned but was not consumed by the flames. As he approached, a voice called out to him from within the fire, "Moses, Moses!" It was the voice of God, calling him to lead his people out of slavery. Moses was afraid. He questioned his ability to lead, telling God he was not eloquent and that the people wouldn't believe him. But God assured Moses that he would be with him, giving him the power to perform miracles and speak with authority. With his brother Aaron by his side, Moses returned to Egypt. He was no longer the prince who had fled in fear, but a man with a mission. He went to Pharaoh with a bold demand, "Let my people go." Pharaoh's heart was hard and he refused to free the Israelites. God sent 10 terrible plagues upon Egypt, each one worse than the last. But it wasn't until the final plague, the death of the firstborn, that Pharaoh finally relented. After years of suffering, the Israelites were finally free. Led by Moses, they left Egypt in haste, with only the stars and moon lighting their path. It was the beginning of a long journey, a journey to the promised land. With Pharaoh's army in pursuit, the Israelites found themselves trapped at the edge of the Red Sea. But God performed a miracle through Moses. The waters parted, allowing them to cross safely. When Pharaoh's chariots followed, the waters crashed down, and the Egyptian army was swept away. For 40 years, the Israelites wandered in the wilderness. They faced many challenges: hunger, thirst, and doubt. But through it all, Moses guided them, reminding them of God's promises and his plan for their future. On Mount Sinai, God gave Moses the 10 Commandments, laws that would guide the Israelites in their new life as a free people. These commandments were not just rules, they were a covenant between God and his people, setting them apart as his chosen nation. But the people were quick to forget. While Moses was on the mountain, they grew impatient and created a golden calf to worship. When Moses returned, he was furious at their betrayal. Yet even in his anger, he pleaded with God to forgive them. After 40 years of leading his people, Moses' journey was coming to an end. From the top of Mount Nebo, he saw the promised land, a land he would never enter. Yet he left his people with final words of wisdom and blessing, knowing that they would carry on without him. Moses' story did not end on that mountaintop. His legacy lived on in the hearts and minds of the Israelites and continues to inspire millions today. He was more than just a leader. He was a prophet, a teacher, and a friend of God. And his story reminds us all that with faith and determination, we can overcome any obstacle.